It's good to be here today. We got a big showing. People, we're gonna have a huge sales force, meet our senators, meet our reps, get the message out, and hopefully educate some of these guys about the benefits of vaping versus smoking cigarettes. Today is a great day, you guys.
And then there's people who just go, well, I read it in the paper, but nah, they're not gonna do that. Actually, yes, they do. Look at a few other states where a lot of really bad things have happened.
That's an excellent point to bring up. You also had the 40% wholesale tax in Pennsylvania. Is everybody familiar with what's going on in Pennsylvania? It's horrible. Even before the tax bill was enacted, you had 60 shops that closed.
This is my third year here, Vape Day at the Capitol, and I'm just so proud that you guys are here helping represent the vape community, man. You guys are all family, and this is so important that we're here today.
And it's very important to have boots on the ground. Things change here every day. Things will change today. I'll find out information today about these bills.
I showed up to my first day about a year ago, quietly sat in one of those seats, just like you. I knew no one in this industry at the time, but I came because I heard some bearded man screaming about a 50% tax. And I was pissed off. I wanted to know what I could do to stop this personal attack on my business. Because like most of you, vaping saved my life as well as my friends and my customers.
Good afternoon.
We know that the longer we delay people being exposed to nicotine, which is a substance that is more addictive than cocaine, that they're less likely to become addicted as brains develop. And we think that increasing the age to 21, just as alcohol and marijuana are at 21, will make a significant difference in the likelihood of people becoming addicted to this substance. Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. For the record, Elizabeth Slaner Hayward, State Senator for Senate District 17 and one of the chief sponsors of this bill. As a family physician, I firmly believe that preventing disease is better than curing it. And one of the best ways we can prevent disease in this state is to reduce the use of tobacco in any form and inhalant delivery systems. Bipartisan co-sponsorship in both chambers, and we're very excited about that. This is a public health bill and about improving the lifelong health of Oregonians.
Questions. First of all, does this include vaping and e-cigarettes?
Yes, ma'am.
And the second question is probably for the doctors. Well, of course, you're all doctors.
All the doctors. You guys are here testifying as doctors. I'm here testifying as a senator.
Nicotine doesn't cause cancer, correct?
Actually, it does.
Okay, because I had heard the Royal Academy Institute states that.
Yeah, I think the British, it's interesting when you talk to them, they look at it as a way to help people stop smoking and as an alternative if they won't smoke. And then, that's kind of a cultural thing, so there's a lot of discussion of that in the English literature. What Americans are concerned about is it looks like we transition, and again, nicotine itself isn't good for you. But again, I think they would argue that it's less bad.
These products are not healthier than cigarettes. You're not selling yoga classes. They are, however, at least 95% safer than smoking. So that's the operative word here, is safer. You are selling low-risk, smoke-free alternatives to cigarette. Healthier tends to imply, well, a health claim, but safer is a lot easier for people to swallow. So remember that in your conversations with lawmakers today.
There was a recent study in Needham, Massachusetts, where they enacted a 21-year age restriction. In the high schools, they saw a 47% decrease in the number of children that were smoking. If we saw a 20% decrease in the numbers of smokers in our state, we'd save 1,000 lives every single year.
They did some fancy computer modeling, and they came to the conclusion that if Tobacco 21 was the law of the land, all of the land, not just Oregon, not just the 230 communities throughout the country that have adopted it, all of the land, in 40 years, 50 years, 3.1 million people would not smoke. They wouldn't pick it up, or they would quit, or something like that. 3.1 million more people than if the status quo were maintained.
If you look at the financial implications of this, we see about a $3 billion loss in productivity and in resources that go to healthcare every single year. Again, a 10% decrease would be a $300 million savings every year.
How many people do you think have quit smoking by switching to vapor products in the past 3 years? At least that many. At least that many. If vapor products are allowed to continue being sold in an appropriately regulated market, we could see 5 to 10 million people quit by the end of the decade. Tobacco 21 takes those options away from people.
Because when you have nicotine, pure nicotine, it's problematic, but not horribly problematic. When you have cigarettes, you have a lot of carcinogens that come along with it.
That we do know that nicotine has an effect on developing brains, and that its use changes brain chemistry, and it ultimately can lead to some challenges in impulse control, which we know is already an issue for young people as their brains develop and their prefrontal cortex develops over the course of the first 20 to 25 years of their life.
I have heard the argument that vaping, you can't compare that to cigarette use.
Yes, that is true, and I'm happy to provide you some medical literature on nicotine, isolated nicotine being carcinogenic. It is much worse, as Dr. Pierce said, when you combine it with all the tars and other things that go into cigarette products.
And if I may, Madam Chair, we don't yet really have enough evidence to know what the harms are from the liquids that are used in these inhalant delivery systems. I would remind you that much to my profession's discredit, doctors used to recommend smoking for relaxation. That it's safe, it's probably less worse, is the best we can say about it. And there's no reason to think it's a good idea to let kids become addicted to it in that form either.
I can tell that you're all feeling extremely warm and nice right now, because after listening to Matt explain these bills to you, I'm pretty sure your blood must be boiling. So I don't think we need the heaters. I think you're heated up enough, right? So the interesting thing here in Oregon is that the level of bills being introduced is something we've seen in California, except it took them 4 years. Oregon's getting hit with all of this all at the same time.
That's an excellent point to bring up. You also had the 40% wholesale tax in Pennsylvania. Is everybody familiar with what's going on in Pennsylvania? It's horrible. Even before the tax bill was enacted, you had 60 shops that closed. No sales tax, no payroll tax, no people collecting a paycheck and spending that money in their communities. There's a whole lot of other revenue streams that get wiped out when vape shops close. And that's only 40%. You guys are looking at 90%.
So right now our message, we have about 4 or 5 lobbyists working against these taxes. We're meeting once a week, first meetings today, kind of coordinate and work these guys and make sure your rep and your senator, if we're losing anybody, who we're losing, why we're losing them, and how can we get them back.
So you've got your work cut out for you, and last night we had a sort of pre-meeting, and I heard about how hard it has been to get businesses involved and to show up and set up the meetings. Guess what? It's the same thing in every state. We had it in California, we had it everywhere. It is very hard to get business owners involved. However, I'm going to ask all of you to get your colleagues and competitors involved, because it's harder for a handful of people to go out there and reach out to all the stores. Whereas you're doing business with a lot of local businesses in Oregon, right? Why not help a little and get your colleagues or your competitors, if you want to see it like that, involved? Because at this point, this is about a fight for everybody. This is not about competition. This is about being on the same page and making sure the industry as a whole survives.
That's what I do all day. Who's weak, who's strong, who's being moved, who isn't being moved. Let's get in there and get them back in our camp.
People will always remember your last loss, and they will not look at all the things you have won in years prior. It's a thankless job, but somebody has to do it. And in your case, your livelihoods are on the line.
It creates a 90% wholesale tax on vaping product. Okay, so when you order from your manufacturer, you will have to pay a 90% tax to that wholesaler.
You know, want to talk to your Democratic, representative or senator today, but the most important thing, is those ones are the Democrats are the ones pushing the tax. So if we can convince them that this is not tobacco, the Democrats need to get educated more than anything.
I'm on the board of the Northwest Vapers Association, and I also own Vape Crusaders in Roseburg, Oregon. So,
Thank you.
I just want to say, if this is all truly everything everyone has said about healthcare, then I want to obey the laws too. And if we could find a way to separate vaping from smoking, because I've just heard a lot about how smoking kills, and I completely agree. 4,000 chemicals, 50 carcinogenics. One of the biggest things that's killing everyone each year. Also, one of the biggest reasons I do what I do and why I'm in business. I've heard things like nicotine causes cancer, which I'd like to see where that research came from. Also, nicotine is addictive. Well, yes, in a cigarette, it's wrapped in ammonia and 4,000 other chemicals, so cigarettes are addictive. But when you take that substance out, we're looking at something like caffeine. So when it's in a vaporizer with a couple other ingredients, and as my customer friend actually just said, it's been proven by the Royal College physicians and New England Health that it is at least 95% safer than tobacco products. So I just keep hearing the same thing, and it's really hammering tobacco. However, our vaping industry is kind of being clued in with that, and it hurts really bad, because what we're doing is trying to do the same things everyone else is saying they're trying to do, which is help people's health.
Your futures are on the line. Who here started a business simply because they wanted to help smokers quit? Who here, keep your hands up, who here thinks they have a good shot at their business for providing for their family, their friends, their employees, and their kids? Were you all interested in building a future for yourself? Guess what? Future is something you help shape. Future is something you get involved in and make it what you need it to be. You don't sit back and wait for future to happen to you. And with that, thank you all for being here. Thank you, Nuva. And let's put up a fight in Oregon.